Hello, everyone. Welcome into another episode of the Four Quarters podcast powered by Four Quarters Media. I'm your host, Tyler Bennett, here with you once again. This is episode 17, part 2 of episode 17 of the podcast, and it caps off the first day of our 2020-21 season preview series where I attempt to preview every single team, men's and women's, from across the CCAA and U Sports between now, which is August 3rd when this one drops, and November 8th. Span of 14 weeks, 8 teams a week. The only day of the week that a preview does not come out is Wednesday. We use Wednesday to get Thursday's U Sports podcast episodes ready. It's going to be fun. It's going to be busy. It's going to be hectic. Hopefully, I can stick to the schedule I've laid out for myself, both planning and writing and releasing and recording. It's a lot of moving pieces. It's a lot easier said than done, but that's what makes it fun at the same time. I've tried to do it the last 2 years. Failed miserably the last 2 years. Full admission. Didn't plan as well as I had hoped. Didn't execute nearly as well as I hoped. It's an ambitious goal. Don't think it's ever been done. Actually, I'm willing to bet money on that it's never been done before. Why not be the first? And third time's the charm. 2020 has been a year so far, and it's only August. So hell, why not? Let's give it a shot. We've got a good schedule. I'll link the schedule in the description of the podcast. You can check it all out at fourquartersmedia.net. Bookmark it. Come back every day. Catch up, read, listen, learn about the teams you've missed. Circle your favorites in your calendar to make sure you don't miss them as well. And let's have some fun with it. Let's take a cross-Canada journey together over the next 14 weeks. Talk basketball, talk to some basketball coaches, players, media members, whoever wants to share their thoughts on any particular team. By all means, we can work them in to the previews as we move along. And all of this is in anticipation that we have some sort of season for this year. Everything is pretty well delayed until January of 2021, except Quebec, which I find odd. We'll see what happens there as well. But the college level of Quebec, anyways, has released a full schedule starting mid-October. It's a little ambitious. I'm not going to lie. But if we get CCAA or U Sports basketball in October at some capacity, whether it's exhibition games, regular season games in Quebec, I'll take any of it at this point. It's nice to see sports back in somewhat all its glory. Baseball is struggling with COVID, but we're getting there. We're getting there. And this series is in anticipation of some sort of season in 2020-21. And if it doesn't happen, we spent 14 weeks talking basketball, which is what we do anyways. So why not have some fun with it and put every team in the spotlight on its own at some point? Part 1 of episode 17 was with St. Thomas Tommies women's basketball head coach Fred Connors and reigning ACAA Player of the Year and All-Canadian, CCAA All-Canadian, Vanessa Sophie. We previewed the women's program at St. Thomas. And then this time in part 2, it's going to be a bit shorter because it's just me. That's all you get. We'll look at the men's program at St. Thomas with the St. Thomas Tommies to wrap up the August 3rd, the inaugural preview of this year's attempt at the season preview series. So the St. Thomas Tommies started all off, and we go right through to November 8th. So this is our starting point. And if you did listen to episode 1 or part 1, of episode 17, Feel free to check it out right after this. But let's dive in to the men's side. And I'm going to start off looking back at the year that was. The Tommies were a team that I was high on, full admission. I picked them to win the ACAA tournament. They did not win the ACAA tournament. They bowed out in the semifinals to a Mount Allison team that I don't think anybody really gave enough credit to, myself included. Learn from my mistakes going forward. But I was wrong. It was a wrong pick. Went with a gut feeling. Didn't work out. Sometimes you get those right, sometimes you don't. I got this one way wrong. The Tommies went 12-6. Regular season, finished third in the regular season standings. They were actually in a three-way tie for second with Mount Allison and Mount St. Vincent with 12-6 records. The Mounties got the first round bye, finished second due to tiebreakers. The Tommies third, and the Mystics wrapped up in fourth. Tommies, their biggest issue, I think, this past year was consistency. And it was the first year under new head coach John Hickey. So they're learning a new system. They started the year really well. They picked up 3 wins at the Ken Gould Invitational, and they opened the regular season with 3 straight wins. But they really struggled to put together lengthy winning streaks. They would go 3 wins, a loss, a win, a loss. And they had a 4-game winning streak, middle of January 15th to February 1st. But that was it. They had 3 more winning streaks of at least 2 games. So you look at their schedule, and 4 of their 5 losses, or 5 of their 6 losses, were within 10 points. And 4 of those were single digits. So they were close in a lot of these games, but they just couldn't get over the hump in those close losses. And that really broke up any positive momentum that they had. So it'd go, like I said, 3 wins, a loss, a win, a loss, or 2 losses and a win, 2 wins here, 2 wins there. Really struggled to build off any sort of positive momentum that they had. And yes, they were competitive in those losses, with only 1 being more than 10 points. If any of those had gone their way, it might be a different conversation. Some of those winning streaks would have been a bit longer than they were. But in a year with a new head coach, you're learning the system. There are a lot of different variables that go in to the year. And then you add that major change as another variable. You're going to have those kind of consistency issues, if you will. But 12-6, still nothing to, shake your head at. It's a 66% winning percentage. And they beat every team at least once in the league. And I think that's a true testament to how tough the league was this year. I'm sure if you ask any team, any coach, any player across the ACAA, they're going to say it was tough. The parity was high. Holland didn't dominate like they have in years past. We saw the Mounties win the final over Mount St. Vincent in a final, a 2 versus 4 final, which is big. I think it's big for the league too. Mixes things up a little bit. But 12-6, they picked up a win over UNB St. John in the quarterfinals, 74-69. Needed a second half comeback. They were down by 9 at halftime. Outscored them 41-27 in the second half to come away with that 5-point win. And transfer Ian Waters hit a couple key free throws at the end to sink his old team, the Seawolves, and push the Tommies into the semifinals, where, again, my pick fell short to a team I overlooked, the Mounties. 92-66 was how their year ended. And for St. Thomas, it was a tale of 2 halves. They led by 7 after the first half, Probably went into the break feeling pretty good. Second half, something switched for Mount Allison. They outscored St. Thomas 62-29. Found their rhythm on both ends of the floor. Their offense was rolling. Their defense was stifling. And that's all she wrote. 12-6 for the Tommies in John Hickey's first year. Started off strong again with that 3-0 Ken Gould Invitational, championship winning Invitational, 3-game win streak to start. They beat every team at least once in the league play. A lot of positives to take away from it. And when we get into who they've potentially lost this year, because again, COVID-19 may have an effect on enrollment. It may have an effect on who actually returns to school this year or who takes a year off, because why do online courses only? So any roster chatter in this preview or any preview really until September is going to be hypothetical, if you will. We're just assuming some names are back and assuming some may be gone. We don't know. The only names we can confirm that are gone are the ones who graduated and were honored at post-game ceremonies last year. The only names we can confirm that are back for sure are the recruits that have committed. Other than that, everything else is shot in the dark. See what happens. We look at who's gone from last year's team. Michael O'Toole, fifth-year guard out of Ottawa. He's the only one to graduate. Only fifth-year player on the roster. He's not coming back. I'll tell you that right now. Joel Harris, first-year forward at a Middleton, Nova Scotia, transferred to the University of Toronto at Mississauga, the Eagles. He's joining the OCAA ranks in the East Division. And then you could add guard Arthur Reese to the mix, who was on the roster in 2018-19. Didn't play last year due to injuries and other issues, I guess you can call it, or other concerns. He's not back for his fifth year of eligibility. He's transferred out west to the Pac West to play at Langara. But really the big loss, again, is Michael O'Toole. And you've heard his story. And if you're not inspired by his story, check your pulse. He was in a 5-day coma after a traumatic brain injury, was told he would never come back and play basketball again, closed his career as the team's defensive player of the year, averaged 10.5 points, 1.6 rebounds, 1.7 assists, shot 37% from the field, 39 from three. Crazy. If you're not inspired by his tenacity, his ability to overcome the challenges that were put in front of him, imagine being told that you will never play the sport you love again. And then you do the unthinkable and you come back and not only play the game that you love and have grown up loving your entire life, but you play it at the post-secondary level and average double-digit points. You're the team's sixth man off the bench. Finished third on the team in scoring off the bench. Made 2 starts when Jeff Lavoie and Alman Dervisevich were out with injuries for 2 games, the last 2 games before Christmas. Imagine being told that you will never play the game you love again. And then you use that as motivation and come back and prove everybody wrong. Again, if you're not inspired by his story, check your pulse. You may not be alive. Even just from a sheer production standpoint, it's a key loss. From a leadership motivation standpoint, Huge loss for the Tommies. But all good things have to come to an end. Michael O'Toole's on to the next chapter of his career, whatever that may be, basketball or otherwise. Joel Harris, again, first-year forwards, transferred to the OCAA, averaged 5 points and 3 rebounds in his first season. Played 13 games this year. Could have had a bigger role next year. We're not really, again, a lot of it's skepticism. We don't know. We're guessing at this point. But who knows what kind of role Joel Harris could have had. But he's now off to UTM and the Eagles. Could assume a bigger role there as well. They're in need of some offensive production, so he might slot in and kind of fill a void that they have that he may not even know that he's taken on this role yet. So really only losing 2 pieces from last year's team that went 12-6 again. Beat every team at least once. Was competitive in 5 of their 6 losses by 10 points or less. Could have very well easily been a bit higher on the record. Also could have been a bit lower. They had some close wins too that could have gone the other way if other teams hit some shots, free throws, whatever. Hindsight's always 20/20. But only 2 big losses from the team. And they had a younger team last year. They had some young players in big roles to start their career, which is going to be huge for them going forward. Look at a guy like Ted Braden, 6'6" forward out of Ottawa. Started every game as a first year. Averaged 8.5 points, 5 rebounds, 1 assist. Was 5th in the league in field goal percentage with 55.2% shooting from the field. Shot 62.5% from the line. As a first-year player, getting big minutes like that, just basically thrown in the deep end and learned to swim. Proved his worth. Didn't miss a game. Started them all. Gave them significant production as a first-year big. Was among the league leaders in field goal percentage, and it gives them a big body inside that they can use in the post. You're only going to get better with experience. And for him to be an 18-game starter in year 1, you don't get much more experience than that. So look for Ted to take a bigger jump in year 2 to try to build off what was already a strong first year. You add in guys like Damon Hemphill, forward of Grand Falls, New Brunswick, 10.5 points, 6 rebounds on 35% shooting from the field. Adding him to the mix last year as a transfer really gave them another offensive weapon. You add in, again, the aforementioned Ian Waters, transfer from UNB St. John. 8.5 points, 4 rebounds. Again, another veteran guy who has experience that really played a big role last year. And again, you get better with experience. Now these guys have another year under their belts. Carlo Therio, add him to the mix as well off the bench. 8 points, 2 rebounds on 38% shooting from the field. Was the next guy up right after 0-2. They had a good, strong 7-8 man rotation that they just rolled. And they're only going to be better this year because of it. The only way you get experience is when you play. And all of their key guys back played significant minutes last year. And they're now entering year 2 under John Hickey's system. Usually takes 2 years to learn a system. They're going to be a lot farther along this year than they were last year. And maybe that will help to iron out some of those consistency issues and inability to build off some of those momentum building wins or momentum fueling wins that maybe they should have won these games, these close games. And who knows, they could have been a second seed, had a first round bye. Who knows, my pick might not have been as bad. Who knows? Hindsight is always 20/20. But you look at the returning group, and the conversation starts with Dervisevich and Lavoie. Lavoie was one of the league's top shooters and top scorers last year. Finished second in the league in three-point shooting percentage. Hit on 41.7% of his attempts from beyond the arc. He was third in field goal percentage, hitting on just shy of 57% of his attempts from the field. Fourth in points per game, averaging 16.8. And just to put kind of his scoring into perspective, he missed the 2 games against Holland College right before Christmas break due to injury, as did Dervisevich. In all 16 games he played, he had at least 11 points. 11 points in all 16 games. In the 2019-20 season, where the ACAA was arguably as strong top to bottom as it's been in recent years. He's not doing this against cupcake teams. At least 11 points in 16 games. One of the best players in the ACAA. Proved it across the board on the offensive end. Then you add in a guy like Dervisevich, 13 points, 6.5 rebounds, 5.5 assists, led the league in assists per game, 5.6 per game to be exact, if you want to be precise about it all. 35% shooting from the floor, 35% from 3, 88% from the line. Did it all on both ends. Took care of the ball, got his teammates involved, can rebound, not afraid to battle inside for rebounds, can score. After Christmas, he found his rhythm, 12 games in double figures. They only played 12 games after Christmas, so do the math. Every game. He had 5 or more assists in at least 10 of his 16 games in the regular season. Closed the year with 10 and 11. So 21 assists over his last 2 regular season games. And just for good measure, beat Mount Allison in the regular season finale 98-92. But he was a rebound shy of a triple-double. 16 points, 9 rebounds, and 17 assists. Crazy stat line. 2 guys that are among the best in the country at what they do, rightfully so. Numbers don't lie. And they did it again in a quality ACAA year where it seemed like anybody could win on any given night. If you don't have your best, you're going to get beaten. So the conversation with St. Thomas definitely starts with Dervisevich, excuse me, and Lavoie. And then you add in those complementary pieces, Hemphill, Waters, Braden, Therio. The list goes on and on. They've got a significant amount of their core back, potentially back, for this coming season. There's reason to be excited about St. Thomas. There's a real reason to be excited about this team. And I think you can kind of see that already with the guys they have. Again, the aforementioned names potentially back this season. Hungry to kind of build off what they did last year and continue their progression in year 2 under John Hickey. They made big strides last season. I'm sure if you ask them, were they happy? No. They missed their goal of obviously a league championship and the trip to nationals. But they made big strides. And in a league like the ACAA where everybody's making strides, you need to make big strides to keep up. Because if you don't keep up, you're going to be on the outside looking in. And you look at Mount Allison, overlooked. They won the league title. They made big strides. You just got to make some that are a bit bigger. And for St. Thomas, with only 2 real key losses that are confirmed right now, it's a team that could turn some heads. On paper, they're going to be strong, top to bottom. And that's just the returning group. You look at their recruiting class so far, which is 3 confirmed names, 2 of which are transfers, 1 from the U Sports level, 1 from the ACAA, and 1 from the high school ranks. Starting with the ACAA transfer, a guy they know all too well, Hunter Gray. out of UMB St. John, the wing out of Woodstock, New Brunswick. Basically, it's if you can't beat them, join them type of situation. Gray and the Seawolves played St. Thomas 5 times last season, regular season, postseason, and exhibition play. The Tommies were 5-0 against Gray and the Seawolves. That includes the Ken Gould Invitational, 3 regular season meetings, and the postseason, in the quarterfinals. But Gray put up solid numbers against the Tommies, averaged just shy of 15 points in 5 games. He had 27 against the Tommies on January 15th. Fortunately, it was an 8-point win for St. Thomas. But this guy can play. 14.5 points, 6 rebounds, 3.5 assists on 45.5% shooting from the field and 72 from the line. Fits right into their system with guys that can do a little bit of everything. Adds more depth to the wing. Now you've got Gray, Dervisevich, Lavoie that can kind of do a little bit of everything on the offensive end. It's kind of a pick your poison at this point. Gonna double one guy, leave one of the other 2 open, try to go man on each guy and hope for the best. I think Hunter Gray, is the key addition to the Tommies in this year's class. You have Guy Osaya out of Fredericton, New Brunswick, St. FX X-Men transfer. Probably said that name wrong. I apologize in advance. Didn't play in 2019-20 with the X-Men. It says he said he played 1 minute in the regular season finale, but hadn't played at all before that, with the exception of 1 exhibition game. Find that to be probably a statistical error. Probably didn't play a minute in the regular season finale for the X-Men. Could be wrong, but all signs point to that being an error. Call me out if I'm wrong. That's fine. I don't care. And then you add in Daniel Hawks, a guard at the Woodstock, New Brunswick, and Woodstock High School to kind of round out that 3-person recruiting class so far. But the most intriguing addition is Hunter Gray, for sure. Adding another conference veteran to an already experienced returning group in year 2 under John Hickey. Just add some more excitement to the mix. It's just another piece to the puzzle that the Tommies hope, when it's completed, is a league title. Every team's working towards that same puzzle. Hopefully, it's for the Tommies. They're hoping it's them that is holding the banner at year's end that says they're ACAA champions. But you add Hunter Gray to, a list that Dervisevich, Lavoie, Waters, Hemphill, Braden, Theriot. The list goes on. And it's just more talent at John Hickey's disposal. You look across the league, some of the top teams are losing some key pieces. The Tommies lose O2 and Harris. But they're in a good position, looking to build off a 12-6 finish in 2019-20, looking to make up for lost time and pick up where they left off and improve on their semifinal trip, get themselves into the championship game, and who knows what happens then. Give yourself a shot. Who knows? But this is a team, again, I was high on last year. Didn't work out so well. Still coming in a little bit high on them this year. On paper, they look good. Do they need to, obviously, 1, stay healthy? Only missed those 2 games. They've added some depth this year. And the injuries were just Dervisevich and Lavoie. Those 2 games against Holland before Christmas. But they've added some more depth. Have they improved from last year? I would say yes. The loss of O2 from a leadership and motivation standpoint Huge. Production off the bench? Huge. Can they hopefully get that from a guy like Isaiah or Hawks or some other returnees? Yes. You're going to be tough to replace that leadership and the stuff that doesn't show up on a box score. But are they a better team this year than they were last year? You could make the case, yes. You could make the case that this edition of the Tommies is stronger than last year's edition, absolutely. I'm still not going to pick them to win yet. I'm still not going to pick anybody to win any conference yet. Got to do some more research. You can't just go making blind picks because that's what happens. You get them wrong. But this is a team to watch. I think they're hungry to build off last year's performance. And time will tell. Hopefully we have some sort of season that we can play everything out. Time will tell. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But that wraps up part 2 of episode 17 of the Four Quarters podcast. St. Thomas Tommies 2020-21 men's basketball season preview. Tuesday, got 2 written previews coming out. Well, 4 if you count each program. The Humber Hawks in the OCAA, and we go Lakehead Thunderwolves in the OUA. And then we're back on the podcast on Thursday, August 6th, our first U Sports season preview episode. Episode 18, we'll look at the Brock Badgers. But again, we will link the full schedule in the description of this podcast. You can check it out again. Bookmark it. Follow along as we go on this 14-week cross-Canada journey where you don't have to leave your house if you don't want to learn about every team in Canada, which is 112. For those keeping track at home, we are now officially 1 down of 111 to go. This was ambitious. Wish me luck. This has been episode 17 of the Four Quarters podcast, powered by Four Quarters Media. Until we chat on Thursday, as always, continue to spread the word. Cheers.